Solve of A+ tutoring. I want to do a brief little survey here of the test prep programs in Mason. As I said in the description here, we actually have a center in Mason, and I've gotten familiar with some of the test preparation programs for the ACT in the area. I want to share those with you here. So we'll start here with ACT Prep Mason. See what we can find. It's kind of interesting. You'll see the first three results are about LEAP's program because they have a church that endorses them. They get a lot of local SEO juice there. But we'll also see some other options here when we put in the word test. So starting with LEAP, if we check out their site, what they really have, they call it a course, it's really a class in general. So they have some options. Of course, this is very cheap, something like $219. They said to expect a 2 to 6 point increase. That's 6 points on the ACT is a lot more than 100 points on the SAT. And they talk about targeting your individual needs. We've been reading some of the reviews about LEAP, and I'm not really sure if it's reasonable to expect something like a 6 point increase there in general. One of the reasons for that is because you don't really have much time. And if you're doing an actual class, classes are a lot less effective than actual tutoring. So the general statistic is that a class is about 1/3 as effective as classroom learning. That is, a class is about 1/3 as effective as one-on-one tutoring. So this specific course, you see you have to buy your book, which makes sense. And after that, you'll see there's 4 2-hour strategy sessions. It's 8 hours of a class, and you can see the classes listed here. I believe there's another option for one-on-one tutoring, which is something like $50 an hour. But of course, you have to realize in either case, when they're charging something like 1/5 as much as their competitors, even 1/10 as much, they're not really hiring what you would necessarily call the best talent to do this. So you could check out their testimonials here if you wanted to give them a try. But in general, it's not going to usually be that effective to do something like 8 hours, and this is a class. So we're talking about really 1/4 the time a comprehensive class would take, and we're talking about something like 1/5 of the cost. And of course, the fact, even though it's 1/5 of the cost, it's roughly 1/3 as effective, even if for a full course. So we're basically doing the 1/3 times the 1/4. Expect in general about 1/12 of the results that you would normally expect. There's going to be some people who do succeed and maybe need a little bit of a push or going through some sort of formal class to get them where they want to go. But just take the English section in general. There's about 350 pages of grammar rules a student should know before taking the ACT. If you read it all, even reading 10 pages takes an hour. So just, getting through 35 hours, be 35 hours to finish just a whole English course, just digesting the material. So I go quickly through the English with my students, and which is a big reason why a lot of them get perfect scores. But you're not going to get something comprehensive. It's basically impossible in that sort of format. And your child also should be good at 2-hour sessions. That's difficult for some students, but that's the nature of what's generally offered here at LEAP. And you can also call them up about their one-on-one tutoring and find out the credentials of their tutors. So the next option here, if you back up, we take away the word test and we see prep ready. So prep ready is a little bit different. You actually have to take away the word testimonials here. I can relate to having issues with a website, but once you do get to it, you see they have some fairly impressive credentials. You need to click on this, the Prep Ready ACT, and they talk about knowing the ropes, a 2 to 5 point increase. They say that's the average. It'd be nice to know if it's 2 or if it's 5, but 2 is still significant. My students I've seen get up to a 15-point increase on their tests. And we're averaging something more like 3 to 5 points. My last students have averaged 5 to 6 points in my last 5 scores that I've dealt with. In fact, recently I think we've got up to an 11-point score as far as scores that we've gotten back. So they may be able to give you testimonials. I don't see anything here. Maybe this fan tab can get you there. Another good thing is they have some pictures of their instructors. You can learn a little bit about them. They say it's intense, 16 hours of targeted prep. But notice this is more problem-oriented rather than strategy-oriented. So you really want to have your strategies and your steps and your way of thinking straight. Your principles straight, and knowing the grammar rules and the math rules straight before you jump into something like this. Because I haven't found it helpful to just take a bunch of tests. I found it's much more important to have right technique, or you do waste a lot of time. So I'm not very impressed with, full-length practice tests, because you could just buy those at the store. You can get 5 at a time for $40 if you wanted to save money. I respect more about tutors who have a good reputation, even getting students to the top 1%. So they're definitely worth looking into. And then there's Study Point, and Study Point is a little bit more in the elite category. So rather than paying, something like $200 to $400 for a class, or maybe even saying for 30 hours to pay something like $1,500 for a tutoring course, if it's called a course there at LEAP. This one is going to be more like $3,000 to $3,200, because they charge between $100 and $125 an hour, which to some people is ridiculous or sounds too expensive. But think of it in context. If college costs about $100,000, putting something like $2,000 or even $5,000 into that, this is a 2 to 5% of what could potentially be a full scholarship, or getting into a school that looks better on a resume. Even more importantly, getting the life skills that lead to a salary, which is potentially millions of dollars over a lifetime, especially if a young person invests that money wisely. So real practice tests are nice. One-on-one instruction is something to focus on. I have a friend who tutors at Study Point. Notice their point increase is something like Prep Ready, but I'd say it's probably a little higher. There's probably more like 2, and Study Point here is more like 3. And they actually have a program that is significant. 30 hours is what I recommend to a lot of my students. We try to get to at least 24 hours, but also they get students into some prestigious schools like Harvard. I've seen the same with my programs, Harvard, Princeton, and Yale, and that's not easy to do. And my friend is qualified who teaches at Study Point. A lot of people aren't comfortable though paying $100, $125 an hour, which I understand as well. My biggest drawback with Study Point is, who is your tutor? There is no tutor listed here on Study Point. They're going to have general tutors in the area. The training is something that has to be done remotely, and a lot of organizations like Study Point, the preparation they give their tutors is minimal. They're looking more at scores and resumes to offer tutors work. So the testimonies are about enrollment people, so they have customer service, and that is important too. So I also appreciate if there's some sort of trial offer. I don't really see that with Study Point. They do want you to call them to find out more, but I find it's important to have a personality fit before going with a company. I also don't see anything about diagnostic tests here to know what you're starting with and where you want to go and what is the right fit. 30 hours may not always be the best option. I've seen students for much less than that and also much more than that. So you want a good idea of what ultimately is the goal and how to reach it. So I think there could be more tailorization offered in this sort of situation. So the last basic option here is A+ tutoring. And I started A+ tutoring a while ago, and that was way back in 2004. And I've had about 1,000 students to date. So 1,000 students, meaning I've tutored for about 30,000 hours, and about 20,000 of those have been for the ACT. So that's allowed me to help dozens of students to the top 1% on the SAT, PSAT, and ACT, even up to 50 percentile increases. So I haven't seen other companies advertise that. I did see Kaplan. You may have noticed Kaplan right below my listing. I've seen a 720-point increase with Kaplan. Their program costs around $5,200, which is almost 3 times as much as mine. So if you're going to get into a program like that, expect to pay more like $150. They even go up to $300 an hour with Princeton Review and Kaplan. So they have top 10% tutors, and there is thorough training that's local in the case of at least Kaplan. So that's something that you can also look into. With our 15-minute diagnostic test, I can get an idea of what a student really needs to do and what's realistic. We also can spend some time with each other and get to know each personality. And I offer my step system. There's a 5-step math system that my tutors have used to get the top 1% scores for our students. There's 6 steps in reading, 6 steps in science, and there is 4 steps in grammar. So, there's some structural steps in grammar too, but that's essentially what we do. We also get into the essay. The new essay on the ACT can be a little confusing, so we talk about breaking that down into a 4-paragraph essay. I was a creative writing major in college, so it's helped us there too. So the best thing to do then is to check out those different companies. Some of them have testimonials. I have some here myself. You can also get references from some of them. I know I have many references from my students, current and past. And the way you can contact the companies, most of them have at least an email. I have an email and a phone number. So if you'd like to take advantage of a free consultation with A+ Tutoring, see what else we have to offer, you can reach us here at 513-939-9033 or use the contact form here. You can also use MD at aplustutoring-testprep.com. And that $79 consultation is currently free if you mention this presentation. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this little presentation about the different options here in Mason. There are similar options in Cincinnati. So just be aware that a lot of these are very different animals. Some are, 6 people in a class. Others are one-on-one tutoring. Others are bigger classes. So call and make sure you get the facts before you make any decisions, and realize what your student needs the most and what your ultimate goals are. I like to teach life skills as well as the tutoring skills because I want my students successful in life. So try to get an idea of the vision of the company you're working with and what they want for your child. And know that your child also has to be focused, which is why I only charge per session rather than for a whole course, because I don't want you to waste your money if your child's not going to be engaged. And that's also an important buying decision. Again, this is Michael DeSalvo. I'm signing off here. You can reach me again at 513-939-9033. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye.